Hey Villa fam, welcome back to season 3 of Honest Conversations with Two Village Girls. I'm Serena.
I'm Angie.
This season, we are focusing on all the common questions we've been asked about specific child behaviors. This week, we're answering the question, what can I do about my child's constant temper tantrums? So, first, let's talk about reasons why they are throwing temper tantrums or exhibiting these like aggressive behaviors.
So we're going to talk about a few reasons. Of course, there could be more reasons why your child are throwing temper tantrums or they're um, showing signs of anger or whatever the case is. But one
Mhm.
thing we wanted to say is that they might be throwing a temper tantrum or something because they're not used to hearing the word no.
Absolutely.
So they might get angry and upset and start acting out or acting in those ways because they aren't used to that word no. And I guess that would be their only way to express that anger.
hmm That's usually like a big reason for temper tantrums in younger kids.
Yeah.
Or like even like grade school kids that are used
Hmm.
to like getting what they want just by asking. They feel like they're a good child and deserve everything.
Yeah.
They get like
Hmm.
hearing that no for the first time, and it's like, well, I've been good, like
That's true.
we'll just know this time. And that's just opens up a new ballpark of emotions.
Hmm.
Another reason why kids might be throwing tantrums or expressing like anger is because it's the only way they know how to express themselves. It's their go-to reaction when something happens
Hmm.
because that's how they process things. They haven't been exposed to different emotional like management.
Yeah. Something like
Yeah.
that. Different ways to control their anger or different ways to control their emotions in a better way, in a more like effective way, I guess.
Yeah.
Along with that, maybe the child could be feeling overwhelmed and stressed. I know a lot of times, we as adults and stuff, we get stressed a lot. Kids can get stressed. We said this a lot of times in our podcast episodes before, um, that kids do get stressed. It's like basically the same as adults. When adults get upset or they get stressed out, they might take it out on other people, take it out on people around them, have this attitude, or whether it's,
Mhm.
it's just the same as a child, except we call them temper tantrums. And I guess we would call a child bad when we see a child doing a temper tantrum or something like that.
Oh
But
yeah.
it could be something wrong, like they're stressed out, or there's a lot going on in their family that you don't know about, or at home that you don't know about, and things like that.
Absolutely.
And another thing is that, well, I've seen this a lot. Well, not a lot, but I've seen this before where um, if there's like more than one child in the house, maybe they're just mimicking how their older siblings are acting out, and they'll mimic and do the same behavior. So they'll start saying, "Oh, if I don't get my way, probably I can do this because my older sibling is doing that." So they'll mimic these tantrums
Mhm.
from their older siblings.
Absolutely. And you can find that in a school setting too. Kids will see one kid pushing or shoving or
Hmm.
one kid not listening, and they'll think it's funny, or they'll think that, oh, if this kid's doing it, I can do it too. Like,
Yeah.
why not band together?
Right.
I taught in one child care center. This was a center where there was constant debate over like, or not constant debate, there was constant rotation of teachers in this one specific classroom.
Hmm.
And so I came in and they, of course, butter me up with like, oh, you worked with 2 year olds before. These 2 year olds have like these kinds of behaviors. And you have one kid that bites and one kid that does this. And, they give us the rundown,
Hmm.
but they don't actually prepare you. Like going into that classroom, I had one kid who would start screaming out of nowhere just because like she thought it was funny,
Hmm.
and she'd start screaming, and then 4 or 5 other kids would start
Yeah.
screaming too, and it's just like, this is not okay, and trying to
Hmm.
like calm them down and let them know, hey, this is like this lets us know something's wrong, and if there's nothing wrong we shouldn't be screaming, but like it's just like a snowball effect. Oh,
Yeah.
everyone's gonna run this way, so I'm gonna run this way too.
Hmm.
Kids really love playing together and picking up after each other.
Absolutely, they really do. Yeah, so we might see the signs of these, and it might be more signs to why your child is acting out or having so much anger. And one thing you could do to like get into like the and like getting to know your child like we talk about every week
Mhm.
is basically listening to your child. We talk about that every week. We try not to be so repetitive, but that's like one main thing like you have to do is like listen to your child, get to know your child, like get to know what's the root to these emotional problems basically.
Absolutely.
I just feel like communication is big, so talking to your child is one thing.
Giving them that outlet to talk to you, giving them that out or an outlet in general is a good way to help with the temper tantrums. That's something that lets them know that it's okay to express themselves and it's okay to like feel what they're feeling,
Hmm.
but allowing them the opportunity to not bottle it in,
Yeah.
giving them some or not bottle it in, but not explode either. Because as we know as adults, like exploding doesn't help in the long term because then you end up burning your bridges
Yeah.
and people don't want to like put as much effort in because it's like you're hurtful and you're not receptive to the help.
Yeah.
So giving them the outlet to productively express those emotions that they're feeling, those big emotions as we call them.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of outlets, and not just outlets just for like temper tantrums. It could be outlets for I just feel like kids need outlets in general. And like when I was younger, I didn't have that many temper tantrums. I wasn't like angry and upset all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But like I know my biggest outlet was church, like getting away from home and going into a different environment where you feel different. You feel loved. You feel connected to the people, and everybody understand you, and everybody there for you. So
Yeah.
outlets are. I feel like outlets are very, very important, regardless if they have a temper tantrum, angry. Like they need something to do, some extracurricular activities, swimming. We talked about something about
Yeah,
having
with
kids
self
learn about
defense.
self defense classes and stuff like that. That could be one of the outlets to let out anger. I know adults go to boxing to let out anger, so you can have
Mm-hmm.
your child go to boxing if that's one way they can release those feelings and stuff.
That's true. And also, the outlets can be like more physical or like less physical, like safe spaces,
Yeah.
giving them like a place to like paint or draw or write
Yeah,
even.
that's what I was gonna say. Journals. That was another good another that's another good tool to help children because a lot of times a lot of children don't know the words to say. I was probably one of those
Mm-hmm.
children, and we will probably refer to like I'm not refer. We would rather write write them down because
Yeah.
writing is easier than like sitting there and having to like I don't know make somebody understand how you feel in a way.
Oh yeah, because then it's like everything, your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions are all on paper.
Yeah,
There's no way to like misinterpret that or
that's
like
true.
misunderstand it. It's like it's here spelled out for you, literally.
Absolutely.
So, in alignment with the outlets, just like placement, allowing them the ability to express themselves, but in an appropriate place. So, we all know or have experienced the family with the child throwing themselves on the floor at the grocery store
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Giving your child the proper tools to know, hey, I can be upset. This is not the place to throw things and scream and draw attention to myself from strangers because ultimately like those strangers aren't like a safe space.
Yeah.
They can like add to the problem, overstimulate the child. There's more outside energy
Mm-hmm.
that like adds to it, just like the extra attention adds to the temper tantrum. So teaching them like an appropriate place to giving them appropriate places to express those feelings.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
It just gives them more like control, I feel like that teaches more of a control aspect of it,
Okay, yeah.
telling them like, hey, you're mad. I hear you. I respect your feelings. Like, here's what we do when we're mad and we're not like, we can't explode at work. We can't explode at
Yeah.
church.
Hmm.
Um, but we can figure out a way to harness those emotions and handle them either in a different way
Hmm.
until we reach our outlet,
Yeah.
or move that energy somewhere else, transition that energy into productivity.
Yeah. Yeah, along with like giving them appropriate places. Another way, like you can like show them how to like act, or show them how to like express themselves in a more effective way, is by modeling behaviors. We have talked about this a lot of times before, but modeling those behaviors. And I know like a lot of parents sometimes don't like their children to see them angry or like upset, or when things are going wrong, they don't like their child to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it is important to show them that yeah, sometimes I get angry, but this is how I handle it. So modeling those behaviors, they'll learn from you and see like, oh, my mommy don't get upset and just throw her arms up and fall on the floor. She go, I guess, clean the room, or she go listen to music, things like that. If you model those behaviors, I'm not saying like you have to go and show your child every time that you're crying or have a
Yeah.
problem and show them that, but I'm just saying like if they aren't understanding when to have temper tantrums or when to let out express their anger,
Mm-hmm.
then that could be like another way to show them how to express it more appropriately.
Absolutely. One thing we do in a childcare setting is planned ignoring. So basically, what we do is we let them know, hey, this is inappropriate behavior, and I'm not going to give you attention when you are doing this. So we
Mhm.
give them the information and say, hey, here are your options. However, if you continue to do this behavior, I'm not going to feed into it.
Yeah.
So that lets them know, that puts the ball in their court basically, and lets them know, hey, if I do this, no one's going to pay attention to me.
Mhm.
And that usually helps them like stop the behavior, because it's like ultimately what the behavior is for is to get attention.
Yep.
And this is usually a last resort when it comes to like talking about the emotions and the feelings, removing them from the activity that's overwhelming them or upsetting them or just like overstimulating them. This is like the last resort of that if that's not working. And it ultimately it helps with like, hey, if I'm not getting the attention, I don't want to do this anymore, because then that gets them thinking like, I don't like this outside the box feeling. I don't like that they're not talking to me. I want them to talk to me. I want them to help me.
Mhm. Yeah.
It just depends on the kid, honestly. It works better for some kids. For other kids, a more hands-on approach is better
Yeah.
with like communicating with them. But planned ignoring, when done properly, is very helpful in a childcare setting. Almost like setting an example. It teaches the other kids, like we talked about earlier with like the mimicking behavior.
Mhm.
The other kids will hear us saying, hey, when you do this, I'm not responding to you.
Yeah.
They'll see that and be like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Mhm.
I don't want to be ignored. I want them
Right.
to talk to me. And so it works out. Which brings us into like reevaluating discipline styles, like I was saying. Like some things work better for some kids, some things work better for other kids. Figure out what kids you're working with, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Y'all know we talking from a teacher perspective, but still, even if you're a parent, you can still try different methods to approach the situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of different things, and like we say, your child is different. Like each child is going to be different. So
Absolutely.
one method might work on one of your child, but if you got multiple children, it might not work on the other child, or I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
And the last thing that I'm so passionate about as a child care provider is say what you mean and mean what you say.
Hmm.
Kids very quickly pick up on empty promises and empty threats. And what I mean by that is like drop off is a difficult time for kids, like first thing in the morning, like leaving their parents. And so them, like we hear parents that are like, hey, that's enough. If you continue crying, you're not going to get your iPad when you get home. A few parents say that, like, oh, you're not going to get this when you get home, or you're not going to get this for the car ride home. Yeah. I'm not going to bring you your special snack. Mm-hmm. And then the first thing they do when they get to like pick up is they bring in the iPad, the snack, without even consulting the teacher, like how was their day. Yeah. And I mean, kids have off days and on days. Mm-hmm. And they do their little temper tantrums just throughout, just because they're kids. But kids pick up on those empty promises and those empty threats and realize like, oh, it doesn't matter what you say because you're going to do this anyway. So in like a childcare setting, one of the things we see a lot of is teachers saying, hey, if you don't follow directions, you don't get to do this fun activity. And of course the kid, they'll hear, oh, I'm not going to do this activity. And they have one of two choices: follow directions, do the activity; not follow directions, don't do the activity. Mm-hmm. Kids often, when they, depending on like that teacher, they'll be like, oh, I'm not going to follow directions and I'm still going to do the activity because you're going to let me do the activity. Like that's their thought process. Okay. They know who is a softie when it comes to the rules. Mm-hmm. So when you say what you mean and mean what you say, this puts the control back in the teachers or the parent or guardian, whoever. It puts the control back in their court, because the kid shouldn't be making the rules and determining the rules. Mm-hmm. Kids are smart. They pick up on those things. They know who they can and can't mess with.
Mm-hmm. That's why when I was nannying, they liked me a lot because they called me stern, because or stern or strict, more so to say. But it's just because, like, I mean, I don't let kids get over on me, because that's not what you're gonna do here. But but I feel like that's one thing I'm gonna be good at, meaning what I say, saying what I mean, what I say.
Absolutely. What this teaches the kid is that they have to listen. Once kids realize that the rules can be like molded and mended in any way, that opens them up to, oh, I can do what I want, which is why we'll see more temper tantrums and less listening, because it's like, oh, you're not going to mean it anyway. You're not actually going to do what you say you're doing.
Yeah.
So like those temper tantrums because they're not getting the toy they want. It's like, okay, well, if you don't listen, we're not going XYZ place where you want to go. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to get the toy I want and we're going to go where I want to go. But the minute they realize like, oh, I'm not getting what I want because I did that, like it'll quickly click for them that, oh my gosh, like I did something and there was a consequence.
Yeah. Then that's still learning.
Mm-hmm. And the sooner you set those boundaries with kids, the better chances you are to have like a positive relationship with them. Mm-hmm. That's like my favorite thing about being a teacher is as long as you come in and set the rules from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like their kids test. They like to test the limits. They like to test their boundaries and say like, oh, well, you said this. Let me see what I can actually get away with.
Right.
But after like that first week or so, they know the rules. They know what's expected from them. And they don't try like to push teachers past, unless the teacher has allowed it or unless the person has been like, and we all have a soft spot for kids. It's cute when they have their little temper tantrums every once in a while. It's like, oh, I feel you, buddy. I'm sad too when I don't get my nap. Like,
True.
Kids are great, and the temper tantrums don't last forever. I mean, they change. They change into adulthood for sure. Yeah. But the toolbox, reach into that toolbox.
Thanks for tuning in again to another episode with Two Village Girls. Please subscribe to our channel if you are new. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down below. Also, go ahead and hit that bell to get notified when new videos drop. And please follow us on all our social medias, which will be listed in the description box below. As always, we want to send you out with some positive vibes to get you through the rest of your week. This week's inspirational quote is by Byron R. Pulsifier, and he says, anger expressed in a healthy and positive way means that we channel emotional anger towards resolution, not attack. Thanks, Villa Fam. Bye.
Bye.